let's look at creating this collage. What I must stress is that I am not going to be dividing this into facets. The reason being is that the still life is quite complex and complicated, and it also is sensitive subject matter. So even though initially I was thinking of faceting it, I changed my mind and I've actually decided that I'm going to rather work with the individual pieces and create this collage as is, but using different found objects. So as I mentioned, you're going to need a tracing of the original artwork. Then you can cut out the different shapes to create templates around which you're going to draw. So once I've done that, I gathered all my bits and pieces together. Although I had some idea of which ones I was going to use, I wasn't entirely certain. And so what happened is I started to move them around my collage to decide which ones I was going to use. What I did end up doing, which is not what you have to do necessarily, but I ended up creating a background using wrapping paper. So my whole A3 paper I covered with wrapping paper, and I then cut out part of my original, which I'm going to stick onto the background. So this is really the foundation that I've created, and what I decided to do was to do the bits that I'm going to paint first. So I used a big brush and some acrylic paint to create some brush strokes, over which I worked some oil pastels, partly because I want to integrate this kind of rough background with my vase. And I then gathered some tissue paper and using some wallpaper glue, I have glued some tissue paper onto the surface to create a kind of a rough surface, which I'm going to paint into to give the impression of cloth. So wallpaper glue is something that you can get at hardware stores. I use about 1 teaspoon to create a cup of wallpaper glue. And you just scrunch up the tissue paper to create this kind of rough feel. I also used oil pastels to work into certain areas, and even a little bit of metallic paint for parts of it. So initially I was thinking of doing my vase with paper, but I changed my mind and I painted it. And subsequently I started to move things around to start to create a collage of found objects. So I'm just at this stage placing these loosely around to give you an idea. I love the idea of including maps and certain things from the original photocopy. I started to think, how could I make glass? And I cut up a piece of perspex. And also thought about how to include the writing from the birth certificate in a way that has meaning for me. So as you can see, I am trying to repeat colors. So there's blue that's coming through the work. I'm trying to take parts of this kind of maroony pinks and blues into the pot and into the vase. I'm starting to repeat the metallics, but there's a lot going on. So it's going to be a challenge for me to work out a way to integrate my collage. So integrate means how to make it one, how to bring it together. And I'm going to do that using pencil crayons. I'm going to be coloring in certain parts of it to repeat colors. I'm going to use a gold pen that I have. Of course, I've got my oil pastels, which I can repeat. I'm not quite sure yet whether I'm going to use outlines or what. Just in terms of glues, Prit is very useful, or a stick glue is useful for papers. If you want to do something a little bit thicker, you might want to go for some kind of wood glue. And if it really is heavy, I found this No More Nails is a very useful glue to use for those sort of heavier objects. Right, this is just the beginning. So I'd like to encourage you to really play around, have some fun. Definitely try to repeat colors and different aspects of the collage. And once this has been glued down, I'm going to move in and I'm going to start coloring and tweaking and possibly outlining and bring this together to create one artwork. I must say it's been a very special process for me. I really felt like I've grown closer to my ancestors, actually, and my mother, who is still alive. And yeah, I'm looking forward to bringing this all together and creating something that has even more meaning for me. So enjoy the process, and I will meet you back here with my finished collage.